Hey folks, it's Maxwell here and welcome to another TW9 video. We continue our run on for the Sickos as we head towards Grand Slam Australia, which is just under 2 weeks away, so we need to keep building up these storylines. The card is pretty much set in stone, just maybe one or two bits that might get filled in at the last minute, but everything else seems to be reasonably good. Not too much has happened since the last collision, sadly not too much to report, apart from what we kind of covered at the end of the last episode. So yeah, we're really telling a good bit in terms of stories today. There's a few angles that progress. We get our authority figure announced and we get Okada's opponent for Grand Slam Australia. So that's going to be interesting to see who that is. I was thinking as well, because we do have such big money, I know we don't make massive profit per month, but I'm thinking I might start looking to utilise a bit more aggressively into the AEW network so we can just try and get as much people and much exposure with that, and at the same time proper looking at an AEW, an elite academy basically, and start getting wrestlers generate, because obviously none of them are going to be ready straight away. You know, you're going to be having them in Ring of Honor for a long time before they make the massive roster that we have. But I'm happy with where we're at. I'm happy with what we're going to get in the future. Yeah, let's just hope some of these ideas land, and other ideas I don't forget about, because bizarrely 2 television shows at 2 hours isn't enough for the amount of storylines I really want to run. But I'm not having a third 2-hour show. Absolutely not. I'd be going insane. But anyway, I don't think we're here for me to blather on. We're here to see the next edition of Dynamite, and some Rampage, and some Collision. So here we go. Get ready. Nice wee dream match to start with, possibly. And then your announcement of a new authority figure taking over from Christopher Daniels. Let's do it. So we're back again at Daly's Place for this one, this episode of Dynamite, and we start the show with Tony Schiavone basically saying we are going to go straight into a dream match, possibly, potentially, I don't know. We're just using up Naito's loans because we hadn't used them previously because it wasn't available. I know a lot of people are a bit down on modern day Naito, but hey, we'll have the match anyway. So he's just confirming we're going straight into it, start the show off with a bang. American Dragon Bryan Danielson to suit a Naito 50 segment. How will they do as a technical masterclass? Very well. Could have main evented. It was a good technical masterclass. Danielson defeats Naito in 12:15 with the running Bicycle knee. 89 for Bryant, this is when he used him. 89. 52 for Naito. 71 wrestling, 57 crowd. We start the show with an 80. If anyone is going to take this company to big, it's the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Just to basically get him into as good a run as we can, all these dream matches before that big match at Grand Slam Australia. We then had a good wrestling match and a decent reaction from the crowd as the Prodigy Nick Wayne defeated Roderick Strong in 9:28 by pinfall with a fast roll-up. So this one again was just to kind of look at the idea of a surprise victory. Roddy's obviously going to get a bit frustrated. There is a story coming out of it, but utilising the fact that Roddy was happy to put Nick Wayne over. 70 for the wrestling, 45 for the crowd, and a 68 for the segment. Great chemistry boosted their performances. Pretty solid stuff. Next up, another low knee that we had yet to utilise was Sanada, so I got that out of the way as well. It was about that had some good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. He battled Takeshita, and Takeshita wins in 11:37 with the javelin kick. I think that's pretty good considering Sanada's in poor form, extremely poor form actually, and it resulted in a 75 segment overall. I'm looking at this and going, my god, how good would Bryan Danielson to Konosuke Takeshita be? Oh, let's try to hold that off as long as possible. Then a little segment backstage where it's basically the Undisputed Kingdom, and Roddy's obviously getting frustrated. I've lost to this kid twice now, what the hell is going wrong? When we set this group up, we're looking to take over this company, and look at what's happening. More on that as time develops. That's a 50. We then moved on to a decent matchup that saw Io Shirai defeat Anna Jay in 9:44 with a German suplex hold. I felt like this would be a good matchup for Anna to take just to help her skills, help her development, and it delivered a 66 overall. Io Shirai with a 78 in-ring performance, so good stuff from Io. And afterwards, we just hear some words from Mercedes Moné ahead of this matchup at Grand Slam Australia. It's a short program, hence why there's no storyline attached to it, because it will be done after Grand Slam. But it's just her saying, you got lucky there. Camille will sort you out, and you're just not in my level. I'm struggling for a promo here, but I just want to do Mercedes EO basically. I can't remember if I've had Camille versus EO already. I've booked that many matches. Probably. But anyway, 50. We then had a decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling as the newly turned heel Dr. Britt Baker DMD defeated Queen Aminata in 8:21 by submission. Made it storytelling, had a lockjaw for the finish. Britt still trying to get over the extremely poor form. A 47's not great, that's why I made it storytelling. Not ideal either that Aminata was off her game as well, but the plan here is a longer term with Britt, if we can get her out of that slump. And she cuts a promo after, she just says what happened last week when she walked out on Jamie was nothing to do with Jamie Hayter, nothing that Jamie Hayter done wrong. She knows that she needs to get to the back of her level, back to her level that she believes she's at, which is the best level. Words were very hard there. She believes she's undeniable. Just remember that word. 56. That's a big hint there. So, lots of stuff here, and it didn't actually deliver that well, which is a bit worrying. So, what's the take in here? So the first segment was basically Tony Schiavone saying, you know, it's time in his new authority figure. Christopher Daniels, it was nice having you in charge, but Tony Khan's decided we need to go to someone else. We then introduced the new authority figure, and it is, of course, Scott D'Amore. So Scott D'Amore comes out, he confirms a few things. He says he's happy that he's been given this position. He basically says he knows how to help run a company, knows how to get storylines going across, and he's hoping to do it and have good matches as well. And he's hoping to do that here. Confirms one thing, that the Continental Championship time limit was 15 minutes. That will be moving to 20. We'll kayfabe in our story because we have been running 15-minute matches in the Classic, so we'll bump that to 20. Just remember to bump that back to 15 when the Classic comes back in December. And he confirms that the returning star to face Kazuchika Okada at Grand Slam Australia, as you can clearly see, is Kenny Omega. Back from injury, back on the 31st of December. I just want to dive straight in. Unfortunately, I had a lot of character ideas that shouldn't have failed. They were safe, guaranteed or safe bet and all that. And I tried that many on Kenny to get him red hot momentum coming into the match. He ended up chilly momentum, so that's why I kind of went, oh, we should probably try and book him a few times, but not actually wrestle before the event. So there you go. Just straight in there, just throwing Okada versus Omega right in your face. That's the competition Okada wanted. That's the competition he's going to get. Next up, decent well brawl. We had Bobby Lashley defeat Katsuyori Shibata in 7:45 with a spear. I don't know if you can hear, there's a helicopter in the background here, but anyway, 64, 48, 68. And Bobby Lashley just continues to look dominant. Shibata, maybe back to the drawing board as that is another defeat for the wrestler. And we also have Scott D'Amore in a backstage segment basically confirming that we will have that four-way that I mentioned I was going to do at Grand Slam Australia, which will see Will Ospreay defend the International Championship against Ricochet, against Konosuke Takeshita, and against Bobby Lashley. So that should be pretty good. We then had a little segment before our main event where, from the PCC, Pac was wandering about alone and he was jumped by Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. Because the main event has Mox and Claudio in action, so they've been distracted. Pac has obviously been isolated, and Garcia and Yuta get a little bit of revenge, which is a 62. The main event delivered, perfect. I thought it would. Superb wrestling match with a decent reaction from the crowd. The Blackpool Combat Club's Claudio Castagnoli and John Moxley defeated the Lucha Brothers in 13:48 when Claudio pinned Penta with the neutralizer. Obviously made it steal the show to try and help us with Pop. 4 good performances. Phoenix is probably the man at the moment with 82. And I say, sorry, 91, but 82, 54, 80 for the show. Both teams having great chemistry together, which is why I went Claudio and Mox. And we finished the show. If you've lost Pac, You've got the chance of the 3-on-2 beatdown, so Garcia, Yuta and Bryan Danielson get their revenge on Claudio and Moxley to stand tall as they scamper away, and a 66 to end the show. So, the reason of another segment, we have a post-show segment. I had a little alert saying I hadn't had the world title defence in 37 days. I panicked and thought, well, they better not try and vacate my championship. So, just for the crowd, we had post-show matchup, great wrestling, decent reaction from our crowd. Claudio Castagnoli defeats Kyle Fletcher in 12:09 using a foreign object, makes the second defence of the world title. And also good to see they've great chemistry. So, nice wee one there for the crowd fading. Obviously, that's probably because it's a post-show angle. 60 for the segment. There you go, the workout. Well, it's a shame they weren't taking it too seriously. I would hope they maybe would have. You know what I mean? Show that, we can have a kick-ass match it might put on television. Which actually, to be fair, if that's what we're getting, not trying, what would they get if they tried? Interesting. So, in terms of that 18 regions popularity gain, and sadly, storylines further during the show, none of them had dramatic effects. So it was mostly, as I say, segments rather than any matches having effects. But I just want to run down what is on the provisional card for Grand Slam before we head to Rampage and Collision. So at the moment, Continental Championship, Okada versus Omega. International Championship, Ospreay, Takeshita, Ricochet and Lashley. It's the joys of having Keith Lashley as a Motherwell player. Tag Team Championships, as the Kings of the Black Throne defend against the Young Bucks, against Powerhouse Hobbs and Shelton Benjamin, and against Aussie Open. Women's Championship, Mariah May defends against Jay Behar. That death match, if we can get it, Hangman versus Darby. Claudio Mox and Pac versus Bryan Garcia and Yuta. We're also looking at Orange Cassidy, Swerve Strickland. Athena versus Diona Purrazzo. Mercedes versus Io. And if we can get it on the show, it'll be Eddie Kingston versus Gabe. If we can't get Gabe, then Gabe Kidd will have that match on a Dynamite just after. I'm also going to try and fit something in with the Trios division as well. So, finish the show. Any locker room incidents between shows? Nope. Let's move over to Rampage then. So, Rampage, what did you have for us? Well, we had just under 5,000 for the Dynamite and Rampage at Daly's Place. And we had Hook take on Preston Vance in your opener. That was a 52 rated match. We had a little TNA Impact Wrestling catch-up between Scott D'Amore and Jay Lethal. That was a 45. Nice wee segment there. We had some words from Anna Jay, which was a 44. Hologram defeated Carol Anderson in a very strange match where they had good chemistry, which I wasn't expecting, which was a 65. We had some words from Cameron and Saraya. Jay Lethal then proceeded to defeat Kip Sabian in 42. We then had a little hype package for Serena Deeb, and then sadly, Riho versus Emi Sakura was not deemed to be. Well, I think it was just said it was two pre-show workers, which was a shame for Riho, and especially Emi's been put up some really good performances. She's had some in the 60s, but just not to be in this occasion. I don't know if it was maybe a case of the scale of where we are in popularity now, like the 68s, compared to their popularity within the States. But as I say, they weren't too happy as our TV network, so we'll probably need to make sure Rampage gets good ratings before it ends up being canned. I don't really use these as like storyline stuff. It's really just a case of developing people's performance skills in terms of technical or their character or verbal skills. So that's how you get some promos for like Anna Jay. You get some in-ring stuff from like Hologram just to help them develop certain aspects. But that was Rampage. Time to collide. So I decided to do the taping here at Daly's Place as well, and we got a stellar 5,250. I believe it might even be a sellout at Daly's Place. And we started off with Claudio Castagnoli, the AEW World Champion, defeating Wheeler Yuta in 13:56 with a handful of red tights. Of course, quite recently, Yuta has beat down Castagnoli alongside Garcia and Bryan Danielson. We'll be touching on that shortly. But yeah, 70 for the wrestling, 59 for the crowd, 70 for the full segment. This was meant to be a decent chance of succeeding, but sadly, the creative finish was a failure, so it could have been even higher. And a 62 and a 78 for their respective in-ring performances. But this is where we had some words from Claudio, joined by Mox and Pac. basically saying, you know, they got the advantage of them, they beat them up, but it just shows when it comes to battling in the ring, when it comes to either being technicians, whether it be brawlers, the BCC are always going to be just that wee bit more ahead of the rest. As I say, we'll go back, we'll regroup, but in Australia, it's going to be the BCC that take over AEW. And that was a 65 for the promo, the storyline advances. Then I had a little segment here. I actually wrote it out because it was just the idea I had. So basically, we have Roddy Strong backstage. Samoa Joe bumps into him, he just laughs at him. He says, "What happened to you? You used to be an absolutely fantastic fighter. You've lost twice to a kid." He says, "Tonight, I'm going to run through you, and then I'm going to beat that little kid and show you how it's done." And then that kind of Samoa Joe smirk you get, and then a 51 for the segment. So Roddy Strong, Samoa Joe in our co-main event. We had a little segment here. Basically, Mercedes Moné will be at the commentary desk for the next match. She joins Nigel McGuinness and Tony Schiavone. That was at 62. And that matchup was very good, actually, a 70. As we'd about, had some good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd as Athena and Io Shirai defeated Camille and Chris Statlander. In 9:22, when Io submitted Camille with a cloverleaf to send a message to Mercedes Moné. The baby faces with fantastic performances here. Starts was not too bad. Camille's definitely a work in progress, so hopefully we can get there. But yeah, 68 wrestling, 70 for the segment overall. Good stuff. Then had a little segment backstage where Bryan Danielson talks to Wheeler Yuta. Talks to him about a few things. He just basically says, first off, don't worry about that matchup with Claudio. It's all going to be the learning curve. Once you've got myself, once you've got Garcia on your side, you'll be fine. And just try and get what happened in my World Championship match out of your head. Accidents happen, mistakes happen. I used that 2 months to go away, regroup, become a better wrestler, a better man, heal and be healthy. But now it's time for me to come back. I'll get that World Championship back, but first we've got to take down the BCC. So there we go. I finally remembered to explain it. Probably about 2 weeks too late, but there we go. So Yuta and Danielson have their talk, which was a 66. Next up with a little promo here, and it's just Swerve and Prince Nana mocking Orange Cassidy. They just say, "What chance have you got? You're just this jokey character. You're just here for a laugh. Look what happened to your friend Kyle O'Reilly, and he's meant to be the intense one. What chance have you got against Swerve? None." Exactly. So it's a 62. Storyline advances. Loses heat, sadly. We then had a decent matchup that saw Powerhouse Hobbs defeat Sammy Guevara in 10:45 by pinfall with a frog splash. I made it storytelling. I wasn't too sure if the styles would click, but I just felt like it was a good chance to get Hobbs some more in-ring stuff. 62 overall. Sammy's getting a little bit stale, so we'll need to think of a new character or gimmick for him. More Hurt Syndicate action coming up, and it was a decent matchup that saw Shelton Benjamin defeat Commander in 8:07 with the paid up. 63 here, actually quite similar in performances, but Commander was off his game. So a good evening there for the Hurt Syndicate. And that leads to MVP just having a little promo here, just talking about, look what Hobbs has done, look what Shelton Benjamin's done, look what Lashley's been doing. We are going to destroy Ricochet, Will Ospreay. We're going to take the International Championship, and Hobbs and Benjamin are going to take the Tag Team Championships. We are going to have a great time at Grand Slam. So that was a 48 there. Then had an extremely short match that saw Britt Baker defeat Renee Michelle in 4:50 by submission, just using a lockjaw. A simple squash here to put Britt over. Segment was a 40, and she was penalised for still being in extremely poor form. I need to check how long that actually lasts for, if you need to give them like X amount of matches to get them out the rut. We then had a little promo from Britt, really just a kind of segment where it's just a case of she receives a phone call and all she hears is, "It's time. Leave. It's time to go. Let's do this." So 68, Britt's leaving. She's apparently undeniable. What can this mean going forward? We'll find out over the next few weeks. We then had Samoa Joe versus Roddy Strong. Wild brawl, so that obviously hampered them, but I needed to put that in somewhere. And Joe defeats Roddy in 11:06 by submission with the Queen of Clutch. 66 overall. Good chemistry between them. I think if you make that a regular match, you'd probably get into the 70s. But Joe's faced Roddy twice now, 2-0 against him. Something is seriously not going right for Roddy Strong. We then have just a massive brawl where Eddie Kingston and Gabe Kidd just start brawling in the ring, then around the ring, and then 3 minutes later, 3 minutes into the segment, they go backstage and they keep fighting. Their partner, Gabe Kidd's fighting himself apparently because I didn't add Eddie Kingston, but that's the plan. Just these guys 7 minutes just completely brawling across the place before Gabe makes a run for it. Just really building up to this matchup. As I say, likely on Dynamite after, but if he is available with no New Japan show, then yeah, we're absolutely going to do it. And that should lead us into our main event. First off, with a hype package for Kenny Omega. How could I forget about this? Just basically him working out, and he just basically says it's been a very, very difficult time, but he's over his diverticulitis. He feels close to 100%, and he knows he's got an opportunity to tear the house down and show he is the best bout machine when he takes on Okada at Grand Slam. So he says, Okada, you've not had much competition. That's probably true in the last couple of weeks, but this is a whole new level. So just a 45 for the start of the storyline. Continental Crown has started. You won't see Kenny until the actual show. It's just going to be videos, etc. But yeah, main event time. Great wrestling, decent reaction from our audience. The American Dragon Bryan Danielson defeats Buddy Matthews in 14:29 with the Bisaku knee. The match was designed so the wrestlers went out and stole the show. 80 for the wrestling, 77 segment, 54 crowd. I'm just putting Bryan against everybody. Just hopefully at the same time getting good matches, increasing their popularity, and maybe even giving some of their wrestlers a bit of a boost in their skill set by being in the ring with Bryan. So he's going to be carrying like so much momentum into the event. But I say we built up quite a good few stories there, probably 5 or 6 of them. Some decent scores. Obviously the best ones actually was Bryan and Buddy. Athena and Io versus Camille and Chris Statlander. So good stuff there, and also a shout out to Britt for her promo, which was a 68. So we finished the show. Financial report, just under 600k for the profit. Popularity recap, everyone up to the 68s, mostly in the US, which is good to see. Thought another 90 go before we get to big, so quite a good wee while. And we'll jump to the main screen to see what we've got. But yeah, overall I think we're in a good position. There's a few storylines that I really want to kick in a gear. Like there's so much stuff I'm like just holding off to after Grand Slam. Like that show, the Dynamite and Collision after Grand Slam is going to be massive as well, because that's going to see quite a few changes. So Collision itself, drawn a lot of praise. More social media drama with Wazala. She's deleted her account, so that's obviously the third instance of that. Oh, I can't believe I didn't even mention the big massive news. The sad news. This might be big. Well, it's probably going to confirm a spoiler eventually. But Kaito Isha is signed, so he'll be going to Ring of Honor, that's fine. Action Andretti renews for 1 year. And negotiations with 2 expiring contracts. But no, the big news was actually sadly a wrestling death. We lost Jim Ross. It's very rarely, I don't think I had many deaths, at least people are on the current roster. Not quite like John Moxley pass away, but I don't think I've got Kenny deaths on it. It's mostly just age, but you never know what can happen in these games. You could have maybe somebody just has bad drug issues and that kills them off, but the roster's fairly clean, so it should mostly just be people that are dying through age. But yeah, we'll probably have an extra event after Revolution. I think we might have AEW Slobber Knocker, and we'll just call that a Jim Ross tribute show. I'm also going to, straight after this, in fact I'll just show you what it is just now. So I did start the AEW Hall of Fame, if I can find it. As you can see there, we have Brody Lee and Sting, which I felt were appropriate, both on the 1st of January. And we'll add, in fact we'll just do it just now, Worker. Load for hell of an art, you. Well, there you go. Commented on the main event of 10 big shows, and he's in the AEW Hall of Fame. So Brody Lee, Jim Ross, and Sting. I could have also added in Tony, but obviously we're too early in the save for anything else to be added. So now we're on to the go home week. We'll have obviously the next episode, which will be Dynamite, Rampage and Collision, and then AEW Grand Slams. Hopefully you'll join us for both of them. If you did enjoy it, a wee thumbs up would be deeply appreciated. And remember to check out the Fancy Bookers subreddit, Grey Dog Software forums, twdv.com, and bethebooker.net. And until next time, I'll see you then. Bye bye.